You might be wondering why we have not yet covered how to read something from the user while running our programs. Well, the simple reason is that I have saved it for this episode, so that we can spend a full episode talking about it. Let us jump right in and have a look at some code. Let us start by looking at an example where we read a string from the keyboard and then print it to the screen. And as we can see, the Python way is fairly straightforward, but the Java solution will require a few more lines of code. Java comes with a lot of built-in functionality, and just as we organize our documents into folders, Java organizes its functionality into packages. And to be able to use the functionality, we need to know where to find it, in what package. And often we also need to instantiate an object to be able to use that functionality. But let's jump into the code and see how it looks. Here we have the code. And before we take a look at the code and talk about it, maybe we should run it and see that it works. What is my name? It's Kalle. And we can see it prints it back to the screen. So let us just scroll up a little bit here. And what do we do here? So what we want to do is to create a variable called input. And it is of the type scanner. Scanner is something that we use in Java to read information. And we can see here that this is what we want, and it is located in a package called java.util. And that is what we want, that's the type that we want. And we can see here what we're doing here is that we are creating this object. And we are supplying system.in, meaning that this time when we use the scanner, we want to read from the keyboard. System.in is the keyboard. Next, we print some information to the screen so that the user knows what to do. Next line here, we actually use this variable input that we created before. And next line means that, okay, read a string from the keyboard. So when we read a string, we store that into a variable called name, which is of the type string, and then we print it to the screen. But must we always write it this way? Must we remember that the scanner that we want to use is in the Java util package? No, we don't actually need to do that. Java can help us with that. So if I write, I know that it is a scanner that I need. So if I start writing that, IntelliJ will help me with it. Rather, it's not Java helping me, it's IntelliJ helping me. So if I start writing scanner, it will suggest, oh, is it the one in Java util you want? And if I press enter here, it will automatically import Java util scanner for me, so that I now can use it. And so that Java knows that when I write scanner, I mean the one in Java util. And then I have to write the rest of it here. But we can see it's nicer to read now when we don't have to write Java util, both here and here on this right hand side. So this is how you read a string in Java. I have one more example that I was thinking that we should look at, and that is if we first read an integer and then a string. And we can see how we would do it in Python here, but let me write the code in Java and then we'll see what it looks like. And I think what I will do is that I will delete this example so we start fresh. Okay, with the code written, we can see that it is fairly similar. It looks a little bit different because when we are reading an integer, we need to use the next int method instead of the next line that we use when we want to read a string. But other than that, it is fairly similar to the first example. Let's try to run it and see what happens. Okay, how old am I? I am 20. But wait, what happened? I was never asked for my name. Instead, it just continued and printed my age, and then it stopped. Well, there is one thing that everyone that starts programming in Java will encounter sooner or later, and that is this problem. And the problem is that when we want to input our age, we say, for example, 20, but to verify that we're done with entering our age, we press the enter key. And what is happening here is that, all right, when Java sees this, that I write 20 and then I press the enter key, 20 is a number, so that goes and is stored in age, our variable. But this enter that I press, it lingers around because it cannot be stored in our age variable. So it lingers around. And then when we come down here and we are going to read our string, the enter is still there. So Java thinks that, all right, then what you want to do here is to enter an empty string. All right, so that is why it does what it does, because it interprets this as, all right, as it lingers around, when we come here, what we want to do is to enter an empty string. But that is not what we want to do. So somehow we have to get rid of this enter when we first read an integer and then a string. So if you ever do it in this order in your program, you must get rid of this enter here. And how do we do that? Well, we have two ways. One way would be to do something like this. If we do an extra input.nextLine, what would happen is that, all right, we try to read a number, 20, that is stored in age. And then when we come to the next line here, we read again and we read this enter and just throw it away, so that when we are trying to read our name, we can actually do it. We can try it and see that it works. I'm 20, my name is Anna. And we can see now this time I was allowed to enter a name. So it worked. So we just threw this away using this next line here. Another way of solving it would be to say that, all right, we're going to read a number, an integer, but what if I read it as a string? And then I ask Java to convert it to an integer for me. This way we would get around this problem with only storing the number, because now we read all of it and then we convert it to an integer. And if we run it, we can see that this will work too. So how old am I? I'm 30 and my name is Max. And we saw that I was allowed to enter my name. So this is just something to have in the back of your mind. If you ever read an integer or a number and then a string, and suddenly you're not allowed to and you cannot enter your string, then just remember this and make sure that you get rid of that extra enter.